The Zylok is not your typical secondary weapon. It has a 2-shot rechamber mechanic that isn't appealing to the Warframe community. What's going on, guys? It's Swimzyy here, and in today's video we are going over the Incarnon Zylok Prime. This weapon's base variant was released as a reward for completing the Pyrus Project event. If you didn't complete that event or weren't playing back then, you can purchase this weapon from Barraketeer when he brings it for 200,000 credits and 500 ducats. Before we get into the full video, if you did enjoy this video, please like, share and subscribe, as it does help me out and so you never miss any future uploads. I also have a giveaway that is currently enabled on the channel, so if you would like to enter the giveaway to win a free Nether Prime, then all you have to do is subscribe to my YouTube channel, just so I can choose a worthy winner. Number 2, comment down your IGN, your in-game name, so I know who to give the reward to. And number 3, give me your best response to the following question. If you could create a Warframe, what would you name it and what abilities would it have? Remember, the best comment wins, so get creative. The giveaway winner will be announced on the 20th of April 2024. Best of luck to everyone. With that being said, let's get straight into it. In this video, I'm going to show you the best build that I have come up with, and we are going to go over the Incarnon choices and test the weapon out in the Simulacrum and Steel Path. So this is the Zylok Prime, and you can put the Incarnon Genesis on either the Zylok Prime like I have, or the standard Zylok. Now I chose the Prime, and I would highly recommend you put it on the Prime if you have it, because the Prime weapon has better stats overall. And this is the build that I've created. Now it does include a Riven. Now if you don't have a Riven, I would highly recommend you put on a primed Bane mod or a Baned mod, just so you can deal more damage to the faction that you are versing. I personally don't like Bane mods, that is why I chose to run a Riven. Riven disposition is horrible, it's 1 out of 5. I prefer just playing without Bane mods because I find them a bit cheese. Anyway, here is the build for my Zylok Prime. We have Lethal Torrent, plus 60% fire rate, plus 60% multi-shot. Prime Target Cracker, plus 110 critical damage. Primed Heated Charge, plus 165% heat. This Zylok Riven, plus 58.3% zoom, plus 188.6 damage, negative 37.8 impact. This Riven roll on its own is pretty decent, however that Riven disposition doesn't really help this Riven out, but the negative 38% impact does help out quite a bit. Next we have Karna's Stinger, plus 90% slash, plus 60% status chance. Galvanized Shot, plus 80% status chance. On kill, plus 40% direct damage per status type affecting the target for 14 seconds, stacks up to 3 times. We also have Galvanized Diffusion, plus 110% multi-shot, and on kill, plus 30% multi-shot for 20 seconds, stacks up to 4 times. And our last mod is Primed Pistol Gambit for that plus 187% critical chance. I'm also running R5 Secondary Merciless for on kill plus 30% damage for 4 seconds, stacks up to 12 times, plus you get a little bit of reload speed. Now you could either run Secondary Deadhead, which is a pretty good alternative, or Cascadia Flare if you have it. I did test out Cascadia Flare, and even though it is good, Secondary Merciless is a lot better. Over on the left hand side we have Critical Chance at 120.5%. Critical multiplier at 5 times. We have 86.4% status chance, dealing mainly slash and heat for a total of 5,754. One thing I can say before we get into testing is that the Incarnon form is not the best version of this weapon. The actual main primary fire itself is the best. I prefer it anyway. So the Incarnon form isn't going to deal as much damage as the standard mode. When we stack up those galvanized mods and the secondary merciless, we're going to be dealing a ton of damage, but the downside to the Incarnon form is that it is a single target weapon that does not chain onto enemies and it doesn't deal that much damage. With that out of the way, let's head on over to see the Incarnon choices. Evolution 1, you gain the Incarnon form. Now to charge the Incarnon form, you need to hit headshots with the first primary fire. Once you unlock that Incarnon, you will charge a large single shot that deals radial heat damage. In my opinion, this is the worst Incarnon fire rate form because the beam just doesn't deal that much damage. For Evolution 2, we have 2 choices. You have Precision's Payoff, increased damage by plus 30. On burst headshots, increases damage by plus 20, stacks up to 3 times. Or you could choose Mauler's Magazine, increases damage by plus 30, on reload from empty, increases critical damage multiplier by plus 1 times, stacks up to 2 times. I like using the main form for this weapon, and that is why I chose this Precision's Payoff choice, because on those burst headshots you increase the damage 2-3 times, so you end up dealing 60 extra damage. If you were going to run Mauler's magazine, you would need to have a smaller magazine capacity, and I'll show you why I'm not running this choice later on. But you need to reload from empty to proc that critical damage. It is pretty good, and the critical damage is really good, but I would just rather Precision's payoff. Moving on to Evolution 3, you have 3 choices. You have Extended Volley, increases the magazine capacity by plus 18. Rapid Reinforcement, plus 50% reload speed. And Void's Guidance, increases accuracy and reduces recoil by plus 60%. Now you could choose any one of these. I chose Extended Volley, and the reason I'm not using Mauler's magazine is because my magazine capacity has 30 bullets compared to the standard. It would take me a long time to get the buffs. If I were to run this, I would not run magazine capacity for my third choice, but I prefer having a lot more ammo and dealing more damage with those burst headshots. Evolution 4, we have 3 choices. You have Survivor's Edge, increases critical chance by plus 22%, increases status chance by 16%. Then you have Commodore's Fortune, increases critical chance by 30%, or Fatal Affliction, plus 40% direct damage per status type affecting the target. Now you could run either one of these. If you want a crit and status build, you could run Survivor's Edge. I prefer critical chance overall, so that is why I chose Commodore's Fortune. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's head on over to the simulacrum and test the weapon out. Alright, so I am in the simulacrum and I'm going to be using Mirage today for these tests. As always, the first round of tests I'm going to just use the weapon itself, and the second round I will use all of Mirage's abilities, just so you can see the minimum and maximum damage output. We're going to be versing 20 level 160 Steel Path Corrupted Heavy Gunners. So with this build, you do need to build up those galvanized mods and the secondary merciless. Once you get headshots, you can see that Incarnon form build up, and it does a lot of damage. Now that negative impact ribbon that I have does help this weapon out a little bit. It is not the best ribbon, but I still prefer running that ribbon over a Bane mod, and you can see why. We just absolutely demolish these enemies. Couple of bursts to the head, and that slash damage takes care of the rest. Now, as I said, the Incarnon form isn't very good, but it's just a beam attack that does radial heat damage. It is not very good whatsoever. As you can see, 4 shots and it's killed 1 enemy. I wish it was a lot better. I probably could make it a lot better, but I like the standard form of the Zylok Prime compared to this. Although it does deal a lot of damage, but you only get a few shots with the Incarnon form. But this fire rate and this original primary fire is absolutely ridiculous. You see how much damage that does as well. Now, it is a duplex based weapon, so you do fire 2 shots, and if you really want to, you could tap and then release and you fire the second shot. So it's up to you. You can either spam it or control your shots. Now I'm going to spawn these guys again, and let's see how much damage it does with the galvanized mods and the secondary merciless built up. So it does a ton of damage just straight up. That damage is ridiculous. And yeah, this does have 5 former on it. The build is a pretty former heavy build, but I believe this weapon was nothing and you could turn it into something. This weapon is just pretty underrated. I don't like the alternate fire, as I said, but if I shoot the floor, you'll see what I mean by it doesn't do all that much damage. Look at that compared to hitting an enemy. Like, it's just no reason to shoot the ground. You'd rather shoot the enemy, mainly aim for the head. I wish the radial attack did a lot more damage, and I wish the projectile didn't focus on just solely hitting one target. But yeah, this is the weapon with my build so far, without any abilities, and it is pretty disgusting. Look at that. We are going to use Hall of Mirrors and Eclipse, and you're going to see how much damage this weapon deals. We just got to build those stacks up again. Might as well reload. So this weapon is dealing a ton of damage, and the slash is picking up again. Overall, I think the Zylok is overlooked because of that 2-shot cockback effect. I think that this weapon is getting the justice that it deserves. It definitely isn't a popular weapon in the Warframe community, but I think this Incarnon form does do it a little bit more justice. Now, is it a good weapon? No. It's definitely not the best Incarnon weapon. It's definitely not the best weapon when it comes to weapons, and it definitely is not worthy of being an Incarnon weapon, because Incarnon weapons are meant to be the best of the best, endgame material, and this just isn't cutting it. It's dealing decent damage, but the fact that you need to shoot 2 bullets and cock it back, you lose time on that cock back, and not a lot of people like using it because it doesn't do AoE damage. But I still think it is a pretty good weapon nonetheless. Just watch this. 1 shot, dead. Technically 2 shots. But if you can get a weapon like the Zylok to deal this is crazy. I only need 2 shots for each enemy. Like, it's actually ridiculous. Now, Mirage's abilities are helping out quite a bit, but the Zylok still puts up a pretty good fight. Here is the Incarnon form with Mirage's abilities. It's not dealing as much damage as I would like, but it still is dealing a decent amount. Alrighty guys, now let's head on over to the Steel Path and test this weapon out in a real situation. Alrighty, so we are in a Steel Path survival in the Void, Mott's level 140 to 145 Steel Path enemies, and we're going to see how this weapon is in Steel Path survival. This weapon is a decent weapon, it's dealing decent damage. This weapon is by far not the best. I would give this weapon a B tier, and that's just because of the damage it's doing. It does take a while to kill a lot of enemies with this weapon because of that effect, but I think that this weapon has gotten pretty good with this Incarnon form. Let's test out the Incarnon form now. It's really good when you group up enemies. If you can't group up enemies, it does underperform, but with groups of enemies, it does do pretty good. Okay, that was some good damage. So yeah, the Incarnon form is a bit of a letdown for this weapon. I really wish it was better. I really wish it could target more enemies. But it is what it is. I mean, at least they gave it a try. Not everything's going to be perfect. I can understand why this is a bit of a letdown because of that 2-shot drawback that the weapon does have. But it's pretty fun, I'm not going to lie. Just using this weapon, it's pretty fun. The gimmick is pretty nice. It's not the best weapon, but sometimes bad weapons turn good can be great. Let's see how it does against an Eximus. That's alright. Not a lot of damage, but it is what it is. Eximus units are tanky. Now you can run that Eximus advantage mod. Every time you hit an Eximus headshot, then you deal increased base damage. It's alright, but it's not a good mod unless you are guaranteed hitting heads every shot. So I would not run that mod, even though it is a unique mod. We're going to take on Misery. Let's see how this weapon does. Get the headshots. That's some decent slash damage. Charge the weapon, and they're dead. But yeah, the weapon itself, the Incarnon form itself, I should say, doesn't deal a lot of damage. It's a bit lackluster. I think it could be a lot better if they change a few things around. But anyway guys, that has been the video. I hope you all have enjoyed. If you did, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing, as all of that good stuff helps me out. Let me know down below what your thoughts are on the Incarnon Zylok. That being said, thank you all so much for watching. It's been Swim, guys. Later. Come on, can we deal some damage? Some red crits in there. Oh, it's killing all the fodder enemies.